Hey, Elmers. Welcome back to another week of 13th and Elm. As always, I'm joined by Rob and Michael. How you guys doing?
Doing well.
Couldn't be better.
Glad to hear it. You guys know what season it is. It's the holiday season. What better time to watch an uplifting holiday movie that just gets everybody into good spirits? So, of course, I picked the 2008 extremist French torture flick, Martyrs. Directed by Pascal Laugier, who, if you couldn't tell from watching this, he admitted that when he wrote this movie, he was so depressed that he was feeling suicidal. Kind of makes sense if you get into it. And he also wrote and directed The Tall Man, 2012. Are you familiar with that one?
I have not seen it. I did hear about it.
It is popular, and I didn't know that he did that, so I was kind of surprised on it. And we were talking about this earlier, but there is going to be a 2022 remake of Hellraiser. And
Oh yeah.
Pascal was set to be the director, but apparently he wanted to make it way more serious and include a lot of gay S&M culture to it, to where the producers were like, this might not be the best fit. So they took him off and they replaced him with David Brockner, who did The Ritual 2017.
I do like The Ritual.
Yeah, that was a fun one, and he's done a VHS segment as well. I know you're not a fan of those. I don't remember this segment, but he did one of those, which I think is pretty cool.
I think if you're going to do Hellraiser, though, it's got to be way more violent and way more gay and a lot of S&M, and it should be exactly like what Pascal probably could have brought to that.
Exactly.
It definitely shouldn't be targeted towards teens. I mean, there's many people who might say that Hellraiser is one of the first modern and mainstream examples of extreme horror, and I think that that's fairly accurate.
Fair enough. No, I agree. He should have gotten a job, but we'll see how Brockner does it. Sorry if you're listening, the stars of Martyrs, because I'm about to butcher your names, but it does star Morjana Alaoui and Maleni Japano. Does that sound good? It sounded good on my end.
Sounds French to me.
As Anna and Lucy, both actresses, are actually in a lot of other movies and TV shows, which you don't see a lot in these extreme horror movies. Sometimes it's kind of one and done, but it does seem like they have pretty well-known careers up in France and around there. You know how it goes. There's a decent amount to this flick, as we'll get into, but just a quick synopsis is pretty much just a young girl escapes from being tortured for years, and then she teams up with her friend Anna to get revenge on the family that tortured her, but it doesn't exactly go how she planned it, as we saw and we will get into. And I know I talked about this last week, but you know me, Sweet Bill, I have to break it up one more time. This is an extreme horror movie. It's pretty brutal. Lots of depictions of violence against children and women. So if you want to watch this movie, make sure you know what you're getting into. But yeah, we can go ahead and jump in. I can set it up real quick. So we start out the way that a lot of these revenge movies start out, right, is the person escaping. So the very first shot is Lucy running away. She's bloodied up. She's in a abandoned type of town area. Obviously, she just got away from her captors. And then we get to the credits that roll as the detectives go through the crime scene, and we kind of see some of the shit that she was subjected to, which leads us to us meeting Anna, who's in, they don't really say, but I guess it's a mental hospital, and they're showing her this footage about Lucy, because after all of this, Lucy is of course, keeping to herself. She's got lots of shit going on. She's not talking to anyone, but she talks to Anna, and they want to find these criminals, so they hope that Anna has some kind of key that is, gonna get them to lead to the captors or whatever. And then that's, well, let's see here. We get, and then we get some title screens, and it jumps 15 years later after, and that's when this film really gets going. So what do you guys think of the opening of this film?
I like the opening. I did. I didn't know what this movie was going to be about, and I didn't read anything about it. And I've kind of known about it as being like extreme, like French, new French extreme and all that.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I thought this, but like I thought it was, I don't know. I thought it was like more of what the movie does show, which is like her being imprisoned and tortured. I thought that was like more like, I thought it would be more like what was the Japanese one we watched for Halloween? Grotesque?
Yeah.
I thought it would be more like that. And I don't know if they show it before the title, the Martyrs title. Do they show the like demon kind of creature?
Yeah, you do see that because after Anna watches the tape of kind of like what is going on, she goes back to her room, and Lucy is in the tub, and she's cut badly, and she's crying. And then we kind of see what looks like a demon type thing moving across the room, and with no explanation of it. And it leaps towards Anna at the very end. Right. And then that's when we get a cut sequence to the 15 years later, which honestly, I really, really like this cut. So we go from probably the mental hospital to...
I think it's an orphanage.
Is it an orphanage?
Yeah. Because, I mean,
okay,
you don't have... but yeah, I mean, still.
Same thing. Not really, but the cut is so great because all we get at the beginning is this girl running away from her obvious captors, covered in blood. She's beaten, and then like this footage, and they want to find her, and then it cuts to 15 days later, years, and we see this girl being chased around in a house by a man that we don't know, and she's like obviously in stress, and we're like, oh shit, like this is just gonna keep on rolling, and she's running trying to get away from him, and she ends up like being tackled by him and stuff, and then it turns out that it's just a brother and sister fighting over, I think it's like a love letter
it's like
that she had.
It's the girlfriend of the brother that like wrote him a letter. That was a good fake out.
Did you get that though? Like, did you think?
Oh yeah.
First time viewing, it was like, oh, like there's more shit going down right now.
They go from the extreme, and actually, before that scene like finished playing out, like probably when they get to the breakfast table, I was like, man, I don't remember her having such light-colored hair in the beginning part. I was like, oh, these are different characters.
Different people.
There's totally different characters because they did a time jump. So I was like, oh, she grew up, and I was like, oh, she dyed her hair. That's weird.
That's fair, yeah.
But yeah, the fake out was good. I liked it.
Yeah, and then we get just this family. It's the mom and dad and two kids. They look, kind of teenager, tweens, whatever you want to call them.
They're definitely teenagers.
The boy's 18.
One of the boy's 18. We don't get an age on the other one, but yeah,
Probably
she's
like
a teenager.
Not like 12 though. She's like
15, 16.
Yeah, she's a teenager. And we get this. This is one of my favorite scenes of all time. Is this breakfast scene, and I mean it's just a normal family having breakfast, and the son is getting scolded by her mother, which
he's getting dunked on. He's getting dunked on by his mother.
I mean, I've been there. Like we've all been there. It's like kind of. I mean, he's 18. He doesn't really know what he's doing with his life, and he's getting called out on that. And like I felt that. I was like, damn. Like I know how he feels. They're kind of like, what are you doing? Well, you barely graduated high school. You studying out, and like the sister's giving her shit and stuff. And I do believe it's a good conversation, as in like it's a believable family conversation at the dinner table. Like the acting here is good, the dialogue is good.
Yeah, and it like picks up in the middle of like what's seemingly like an ongoing conversation. Maybe not that from that morning, but just over the course of the last few months. You know what I mean? There's like believable tension, and it does feel like a fleshed out dialogue.
Yeah. No, it feels very real, and they're having dinner, and then the doorbell rings.
Breakfast.
Did I say dinner?
Mm-hmm.
That's because you guys put it in my mind. But they're having breakfast, and the doorbell rings. And the dad, it's like, oh, I'll get it. And I love how he's walking to the door, and he's continuing the conversation, like, that he's having, as in, God, I don't know how to explain this, but if I was having breakfast, like, early in the morning and someone rang my doorbell, like, I'd be nervous. I'd be like, who the fuck is ringing my doorbell at this time? I guess they're adults, and it's a little different. But he's walking to the door.
What are you, Bill?
Huh?
What are you?
Bill's a tween.
I'm 28 years young. I mean, like,
It is. It
when I say adult, I mean he is a 50-something-year-old father
with 2 teenage children.
with 2 teenage children.
That's the requisite for adult now. He can vote and he can smoke cigarettes.
And he owns
go to war.
He's a homeowner. Also, it's
That's all
like
it
he
takes.
mentions it's Sunday, and it's probably like what 10 a.m. Like the sun is up.
Yeah.
Mom's been working in the whatever ditch with the water main or whatever
Oh,
that
That
is.
part was a little weird. Yeah, mom gets up and digs up the water lines to fix a clog that is a dead mouse that she just brings in the house and drops on the the breakfast table.
It doesn't even look like a. It doesn't look like a water main. It looks like a whole well system. Like it's pretty industrial, and she's dug like a 8 feet deep by 20 foot across. Like it's massive.
That's just a normal morning project. This is like, oh, the water pressure's not right. Well, you go take a look at that, honey.
Go dig out a
And she's like,
giant
"Yeah, I'll
trench to
dig
get
out the
a
whole
mouse out of
thing."
it. Yeah, and then she's like dangling around people's faces at the dinner table.
Yeah,
or
she just
breakfast table.
Yeah, she just she just drops the dead mouse on the table while everyone's eating.
It's definitely got like shitty sewage water soaked all over it, and she's like, "Eh."
That's so hot.
Yeah, but then he opens the door and he gets a shotgun blasted pretty
Yes.
immediately.
This scene is so good.
How good is it?
So
It's one of my favorite
Good.
scenes in any movie ever, any genre. I mean, the casualness of the father answering the door, and then you immediately kind of see in his eyes that, like, maybe he recognizes who he sees or maybe he doesn't, but it doesn't matter because he doesn't have enough time to figure it out before there's just a shotgun blast into his chest that just sends him flying.
I don't even think necessarily it's him as much recognizing an individual, but it's kind of like that moment where you're forced to face your sins. And like he knows,
Yes.
like it's the moment where like he opens that door and it's like the
Fuck.
day he always knew was coming but wish would never come. And this is his fucking reckoning. Like, who is this woman of like, she's 26 or some shit like that, and she's got her hood up and she looks tormented and like she's about to fucking commit a crime, knocking on my door, and it's like atonement.
Given the floor plan of their home, it seems like this gentleman would expect this to happen eventually, right?
And
Yeah.
what do you mean?
Comeuppance. What do you mean? What do I mean?
His floor plan?
Yeah, the floor plan of the home.
Do you mean like the secret
The
tunnels and
the
shit,
dungeon?
or
Yeah,
just-
I mean the dungeon.
But like, we'll get into this in a second, but she was there to gather information is what we like kind of learned.
That's what she said she was doing.
The thing about gathering information is it rarely requires a
double-barrel
shotgun. But
Exactly. I mean, I'm kind of talking about what Anna thinks is that Lucy is going there to confirm from the family that they saw in the newspaper is actually them. And of course, Lucy goes, finds out that it is them, doesn't care about whatever plan they may or may not have. And she continues in the house, and oh my God, I mean, just the way that she moves through this house and the way that the other characters react. I mean, the acting in this, I think, is great. Like, after Dad gets blown away, like, everyone is just scattering and freaking out, and Mom's running down the hallway, and just no hesitation, reloads both of those, boom, does Mom in the back. And then it gets to the point to the children, which we can guess from the synopsis and what this movie is about. Like, we know this is revenge, and that when the crimes committed against the killer happened, these children were infants or children,
Yep.
or had nothing to do with it. And you can tell that after she kills Mom and Dad, she wasn't prepared to deal with them. So she sees the son trying to leave and makes him sit down.
Well, you only have one option at that point, though, really.
Exactly.
But there's that moment of humanity, that hesitation and realization of
Yeah.
what she has to do, because you have to do that at that point.
Yeah, she kind of realizes that maybe she, and this is like another part of, like, maybe they had like a different plan of scoping it out, and like maybe she didn't even know that they had kids when she went in, but she obviously knows this now, and she catches the son first, trying to go through the doors, and makes him sit down, asks him his age. I think she says something along the lines of, like, do you know what your parents did to me, like what they've done to me? And you can tell, God, she's so not sure she wants to kill him or not. And I feel like
I think she knows she doesn't want to. Again, dude, it's a necessity at this point.
And she eventually blows him away. And then there's only one more, right? Which is the daughter that we saw, the redheaded daughter. And she's got to look through and like keep finding her, and she finds her hiding under the bed. And I love this because it's kind of cowardly, but it's like kind of badass in the same way. She knows she's hiding under the bed, so she gets on top of the bed and just shoots down through the mattress at her. And obviously the first shot's not a kill shot, but she hits her. We see the blood, and she tries to get away, goes for the run, and then boom, another shot. And that's the family dead.
Yeah, so I didn't know what this movie was about, and similar to Rob, I had heard about it for years, just being in the new French extreme movement and being one of those like shock cinema films. By many accounts, this is kind of like a seminal film and a benchmark for the modern extreme horror, and I was well aware of that, but I didn't really know what the concept or plot would contain.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of anticipation for this film. It's one that I've been meaning to watch for some time, and for whatever reason just haven't got to it. And I really didn't know what I was getting into, not in the terms of violence and gore. I kind of had a pretty good idea of what I was getting into there, but the opening of this movie, it does fucking kick the doors down and blow you away like a shotgun blast. Like, I mean, it's kind of apropos how this movie begins, because it's really how it feels. I will say that one of my least favorite things in any movie, and even more particularly in the horror genre, is gun violence. It's just so lame. But this was establishing kind of the mood more so than it was about the violence and like the gore or the kills, and like
Right.
there was definitely that to come in the film. I did feel like this was a really hot shot start to the movie. It definitely gave you the impression that we're going balls to the wall the whole time and that nobody's safe. I mean, we're gonna murder a family at the breakfast table. We're gonna kill children. Obviously they weren't young or small children, but 15-year-old getting to be the last one to survive her family's breakfast massacre, and then to get shot and scared out from under the bed and then blown away as she's escaping into her hallway of her childhood home, all within the first 10-15 minutes of a movie, does set a tone. And I think as the movie went on, I liked this scene less and less, just because of where we go with the movie. And I really don't like gun violence. Like, it's just so fucking lame and cheap and silly to me. Like, real quick, like the Belko experiment. Did you guys watch that? I was really excited to see that. That shit sucked. It's like 40 fucking kills, and like 38 of them are like just headshot gun kills. It's like, cool. I
understand it, but also, like,
there's a real terror to that.
You're like a young girl entering a home that you're not sure what's on the inside. Like, can you imagine her going in with a knife or a hammer? Like, she wouldn't have made it out. I mean, for the movie sense, for the plot, like, I mean, the gun made sense. And I do agree that for horror reasons, they're lazy and sometimes boring kills. But for the character and the story, I don't see her doing that any other way.
I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but she could go in with like a blade or something and kind of play like the damsel in distress and isolate members of the family and kill them slowly one by one in separate areas of the room. Start with the father first because he's the strongest and take him out quietly. Then go to the mother before she catches on, and then the kids are sitting ducks. Make sure the house is locked. I mean...
But she doesn't know who's in the home.
Sure. That's true as well. But I mean... whatever. I'm just saying, like, there's elements to that I do really like and respect. Like, how quick it is makes it a little bit more scary and real. But also, like, I think if it was more brooded and took her time and that was a little bit more methodical about it, then I might have appreciated her character more.
That's fair.
But, I mean, I don't know. I think that... before we get too far into it, just because it's going to come out eventually, I kind of have a hot take on this movie.
Uh-oh.
It was really boring. Like, it was really boring.
Really?
And I think that this could have been a place where that could have been remedied a little bit. But unfortunately, it wasn't. It was actually a highlight. And we spend the next 30 minutes of this movie not doing a whole fucking lot of anything.
After the
initial breakfast massacre, yeah, it definitely set the tone. And like I said, as I was watching it, I was like, "All right, here we go," because like shit's gonna keep popping off, and it slowed down considerably for a while, and that gave me too much time to think about how much I don't like gun kills in horror movies. And then by the time we get to like the next real event, I was just kind of like, I don't know. I have a lot to say about this movie, and I also don't know how much I'll say, just because.
I mean, number one, she's a young woman. She's been searching for these people for 15 years. I mean, maybe not actively, but since she escaped.
Right.
She knows that they are demented torturers and doesn't know how prepared they are, really anything about them. So don't take any chances at all. Go in guns blazing and kill those motherfuckers and make sure there's not a single chance that they can escape or anything like that.
Sure.
And I also like, again, like the quick action, like how intense that scene was and how quickly it resolved itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're not gun violence people, but isn't like right after that happens that the demon shows back up and there's like a bunch of
the demon.
There's a bunch of like straight razor attacks on her back and like there's some like blade like gore and violence and stuff going on before Anna shows up.
Yeah, so there's a...
It's not like extended, but it's there.
Yeah, so there's a demon girl, dead girl.
What else do you want to call
whatever
her?
you want to call
fucking
her.
figment of imagination.
Yeah,
It is.
okay, but like when you would describe them physically,
what
like,
are
what
what
does it
are-
look like?
What are demons?
Well, it's a skinny naked thing covered in scars and blood, and like it's a demon.
I want something that occupies 3D time and space. Like if we're going to introduce the idea of demons. So this is going to
It's not a
transition right
demon.
into. I know it's bullshit. It's going to transition right into my next like real issue. Is like,
Mhm.
yeah. So you want to kind of paint this as some sort of cerebral approach, like it's a young girl who's tormented, doesn't want to take any chances. Blah 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 blah. Blah. Fuck this shit. It meanders back and forth for me between trying to be some sort of high art, like new wave horror cinema that's intellectual and like well shot and well made, and then also just being some sort of like gutter street trash violent fucking gore film. And it's like,
That's like everything you love.
no, it's not. Pick a lane and stay in it.
You don't like movies that have weird tonal shifts?
Mm,
Because I do. Let me say this: I did not care for the third act in this film, like at all. In fact, it degraded my rating of this film because when it's supernatural, like or when it's left up in the air, like I'm digging this. Like, give me more of this.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to like the third act where the guys in black suits show up, I was like, oh, okay.
This, and
I
I mean, you
had the
say
same
3. I
reaction.
very much see this movie as 2 films,
Okay.
as it's 2 parts. And the first part, I see as a more extreme version as the Babadook, and then the second part I see as a more extreme version of Hostel.
I was gonna say,
And the Babadook part is, I mean, we remember Babadook. I mean, we didn't like it, but it was this monster that only certain people could see, and it was represented something else. And then
Mental
this,
illness, yeah.
like the demon, dead girl, whatever is, we found out that when Lucy escapes, she finds another girl that's being tortured, and decides to just leave her.
she doesn't have the time to.
yeah,
Exactly,
it's
no,
more like a
it's
snap.
not-
Like if I stay here, I'll die.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not like a reflection on her character. It's more like, if I get out now, I can like hopefully get help. It's not like her being like a piece of shit, but like she feels bad about that, and I think this dead girl that she's seeing is a representation of that, and she has to deal with that, and to deal with that, she has to kill the people that inflicted that, which is why. I mean, at the beginning, after the slaughter, we kind of learn that the mom is still alive. And Anna, who's the friend that gets phoned, and this is when we kind of realize this might have not been the right plan, is when Lucy calls her from the house, and she's like, where are you? Like, did you figure out it's them? Like, what should we do next? And she's like, oh, I took care of it. Like, it's done. And that's when she's like, what did you do? Where are you? Which makes you think like that wasn't the original plan, to just
Or at
run
least
in there
that Anna
and
wasn't
shoot
in on it.
everybody. Yeah,
I mean, it was the plan. Lucy
it
showed
was
up with
Lucy's
a fucking gun.
plan.
Yeah, not the agreed one.
But Anna shows up, and I mean, their relationship is strange, right? Because talking about like the demon dead girl, Anna says that she believes it, but you can tell that Lucy doesn't actually think that, and she's like, you don't believe it, and you find out that Lucy believes that the family that is responsible for it has to be dead, or else this dead girl demon thing is not going to leave her alone, which is when she finds out Anna is trying to take care of the mother that's still alive. I mean, she becomes furious, and she finds out, and she catches Anna trying to walk her out. And this is a great kill in my opinion, because it's just another time Lucy shows absolutely no remorse. Her
This was a good kill.
childhood friend is trying to help a wounded woman, and she tackles her and just brutally is beating her in the back of the head with I don't remember exactly, some blunt
It's a mallet.
object, a
It's a
hammer
hammer.
or mallet
Yeah.
or something,
It's
and
like a small sledge.
yeah,
I
and
did like this because it was excessive.
It goes on.
Yes,
It goes on for a while.
A lot of it's off screen though, and like what you do see is, I don't know,
You see a wig getting smashed.
it's good in the
Pretty
sense
much.
that like it takes a lot of force to like crush a skull,
Not
and
really.
like, I mean, it kind of
8
does.
pounds of pressure.
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta when your head's laying against.
That sledge probably weighs 8 pounds.
I don't know about that. I think it was probably like 3 pounds.
It's probably a 3-pounder.
Yeah. But you gotta hit her pretty good, and like you could see that like the first few blows with this that you do see on screen aren't really. They're not crushing. They're like
You see her like
cracking. They're like yeah.
conked in the
It's
side
like
of the head.
yeah. It's like caving in slowly but surely, but like she does not let up until like she's
made a schnitzel.
yes, absolutely, which I think is not French. In fact, I know it's not.
Nope.
she
It's Vichy French.
Fair enough.
but I mean, she gets her anger out on this kill at the woman and both her friend, because I mean, she says to her, "She hurt me. Why are you trying to help her?"
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not until she sees it being helped that she's like, "Oh, you don't believe me. You think I'm crazy. Like the doctors think I'm crazy."
Yeah, which she turned out, she kind of
Okay.
is.
Crazy's
Crazy like a fox.
kind of an offensive term in this sense. I think
Okay.
she's definitely
bonkers.
mentally compromised through trauma, and she's absolutely experiencing like visual and audio hallucinations, and
Okay, but it's brought on by a very specific type of torture, which I don't think is realistic.
It's not, and like at this point in the movie, if you hadn't seen the movie before, you don't know if there's like a supernatural or like magical element yet. Like everything's still kind of up in the air.
Right, exactly. There's a very long time where you don't know if this dead girl is like a demon or whatever is part of her imagination, and you don't until like the
just
end
right
of
about
this
here, actually,
scene.
yeah, because she's in the hallway. They're both still in the hallway,
Right.
and then the scarred woman, or the demon, whatever you want to call her,
Yeah.
the victim that she left behind, shows up and is starting to smash Lucy's head into the wall in the hallway.
It's cutting her wrists all the way down.
Well,
first.
it's like from the like almost the crook of her
Yeah.
elbow. Yeah. And then smashing her head in.
But see, this is what I
Okay.
fucking don't like
We'll
about
get into
this,
this.
because like she doesn't, and maybe I missed something, but like there's no broken glass, there's no blade. This is not a self-inflicted wound.
She has a razor blade.
She has a
Who
razor
does?
blade, yeah.
Lucy.
From where?
I don't know where she picks it up from.
I don't recall this exactly, but I
because
could be
She
mistaken.
might just have it.
She might just have it because
Sure,
no,
I mean, she's there for a
she has
rampage.
she has a straight razor. I know she has a straight razor with her the whole time because they show her using it to like. She gets sliced by her demon lady while she's waiting for Anna to show up, and it's like a white like straight razor.
Right.
But I thought she had like a disposable razor blade. I don't know where she got that from. But
And I could be misremembering it because at this point we don't have the reveal.
You
so
don't.
I'm not like, maybe I'm not looking at it, and I've only seen it once, but I feel like I remember seeing the hands of the demon inflicting these wounds, and I get it. That's a metaphor.
You do
Yeah.
see her like doing it, and then you goes back and you just see Lucy doing it like to herself, like there's
Yeah.
back and forth.
But isn't it occurring like on her back and shit also?
So you don't ever see Lucy doing that to herself. You only see the demon doing that to her.
yeah, but like on her back.
Yeah. But it does. I mean, like earlier in the movie, yeah, her back gets all cut up. But then when you're seeing her get her arm slit, like it goes back and forth between the demon doing it and Lucy doing it to herself with nothing else around her.
And then obviously, like, you do see that from Anna's perspective, where like Lucy's just smashing her
Her
own
head.
head against the wall, and
Yeah,
like it's
that's-
clear at that point. And obviously, like the demons of trauma and
That
shit,
one's
I get
even
that.
like forgivable because when you see the demon, it's like both of their hands are on her head. But when she's using the blade, it's back and forth between each of them.
right.
Right.
Still, though, what I will say is that this is the point where this is the turning point in the film, where after this sequence, things started to fall apart for me, and I started liking the movie less and less, because
Same.
at this point, one, things are still, well, it's like you're starting to think that she's crazy and like, well, that she's mentally compromised, and that all of this is happening like it's a hallucination. And then there's like some kind of more little, the hammer moves, right? And that's how she finds the basement dungeon. The hammer like falls down, like moves on its own.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought at this point was that everyone's dead, and that soon fucking Lucy would show up as like a zombie demon and start tormenting Anna, and it would like start all over again, and it'd be like a passing on of the curse, like it follows.
I would have liked that a lot.
That would have
more.
been great, right?
Yes.
So Lucy does kill herself shortly after this, which I think we skipped a little bit. But Anna crawls up the stairs, and this is the first time that us as the audience realizes that the dead girl is not real, and then it's her cutting herself and slamming her head against the wall.
I feel like Lucy kind of comes to the conclusion that like she's continuing to be tormented by this memory or the guilt, and that like killing this family didn't eradicate that, and now she just feels like she's lost in her own like mental instability, and as a remedy for that, she kills herself, which was a pretty solid self-inflicted throat slash.
And it makes it like she believes that this demon will leave her alone because
it's like showing the blood earlier. It's like, I did it.
Because like kind of like from what we know, this demon represents the girl that she didn't save, that if they killed the family that did this to her, it would go away. And she did that, and it's still there.
Right. Which is when she's smashing her head, and Anna sees her, and we as the audience know that's all a fucking hallucination. And I think that Lucy just kind of says, fuck it at that point. Like,
which is great.
Like, haven't cured myself, and I'm a fucking 4-time murderer now. I'm just going to kill myself.
She jumps out the fucking window, like, realizes, like you said, she just killed an entire family, hopefully to get rid of this curse, whatever you want to call it, and it didn't work. So she doesn't think anything about it, picks up a piece of glass and just slashes her throat, which, like you said, is a great kill.
Pretty solid,
which is a good kill. And then this, in my opinion, pretty much marks the end of movie number 1. Like I said, this movie's in like 2 parts, and this first one is like torture revenge, and I
think movie number 1 by your watermarks here is the better movie with just a bad ending that would have left me a little bit upset, but I would have liked it overall, and it would have had some rewatchability. I think movie number 2 fucking sucked.
Movie number 2 is like the darkest version of John Malkovich. Right?
Yeah, kind of.
Right? You know, do you get what I'm saying?
I mean, for that, no, but
really?
I know what you mean.
This movie,
all the old people at the end show up. Yeah. Oh man, it's great.
This movie is extremely divisive, and I feel like a part of it is because of that huge shift that we have from part 1 and part 2.
Part 2 is also mostly a woman being like beaten senseless by a large man.
Yeah, which, I mean, a lot of people think the second half is completely pointless and stuff, and I am a little disappointed that neither of you guys like it, because I do really love pretty much every second of this movie, as fucked up as that sounds, especially how you just described the second act, but...
you heard it, guys. Bill loves violence against women.
Fuck off. But, like, to keep it going, so... Lucy kills herself, and Anna's kind of alone in a house, and she does some snooping, and she finds like this secret, floorway. It's not a doorway, it's a floorway. And she goes down in it and finds like this extensive torture area. And this is when, Pascal has not, shied away from his influence of hostile, and this is when you really kind of get that feeling is that there's this whole underground organization that's into this kind of torture and everything, and she goes down there and she finds the chains and they rattle, and she finds this girl that is just, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but there's something about how she looks, man. This shit makes me uneasy.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so hot.
She looks like she's like out of like a Silent Hill game, right?
Yeah, honestly, she does.
that-
She looks otherworldly at this point.
Yeah, which
Or
is
like
like
Pan's
kind of
Labyrinth.
goofy, but like also kind of like disturbing how gray her skin is, and it's
Okay.
cut up, and she
Like
has
Samara kind of.
So
this metal thing covering the top of her head and her eyes. I'm sorry, go
and
ahead.
she also has like a chastity belt
Yeah,
thing,
and that made no sense to me because like earlier in the movie you have like the hole cut out in the chair so that you could
you can
like relieve
defecate,
yourself.
yeah.
And like she's chained there. But like this, like what is she doing? But for these hours and
We can-
days by herself, like she's just like
I'm
going
shitting in
insane.
this steel diaper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean though.
I mean,
So we never see the back end of the steel diaper really, so it might
Oh,
just
you
have
do.
like does it
No, it
completely?
doesn't.
It's like
Yes.
totally
And also
okay.
another thing, and this is okay. So I started to like really get
Think about this.
annoyed with this movie right
Yeah.
around here because of the ending of, let's just keep referring to it as like the first movie, and it's like she just fucking stands up, like she's experiencing no atrophy or anything. Like she's like jaundiced from not seeing the sun. Like she's malnourished. She's fucking like when they pull the shit off of her head, like she can't see the sunlight or whatever. You know, it like blinds her. But like her muscles are fine. Like she's not atrophied. She can be led around on a lead and shit. And it's
Yep.
like
I mean,
I
first
get
of,
that's hard to fucking do in a movie, and I'm pulling like a
I mean,
lot of nitpicking
yeah, like I
things.
said, first of all, it's a movie. Second of all, I mean, she does have to help her up and kind of just brings her to the couch, and she doesn't really walk on her own. I mean, I'm not crazy about this character or this part anyway, so I'm not trying to like defend it too much because the existence of this character kind of like negates what I think the overall plot is and like the reasoning for the organization.
It also makes it
that
harder to
we'll
believe that
get
the
to.
family, like the children, are
Dude,
completely unaware.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
because like
There's a loss of innocence now that the children, I assumed, had in the first movie, whatever you want to call
because
it.
they're not like small kids; they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And like this house, maybe they moved into it, but you assume it was built by the organization for them to live in. And how do you not like they feed Lucy like what daily every other day? Like they're doing enough like regular torture that it's not like you're popping down once a week. Like you're down
Well,
there
to be
like
fair, Lucy was
Okay.
in a different location.
Also,
She's like in the warehouse and like in the industry district.
to be fair, we get
oh, I mean Anna, sorry.
Or-
I mean when
Yeah.
Anna's down there, right? They're
Okay.
like feeding her and all that. So like if they're doing that to the other woman that gets saved, it wouldn't be like they could hide it from the kids by doing it like every other day, every other week or something. Like they'd have to have constant care of this creature down
Right,
there.
and I
She'd
understand you
die.
could like soundproof shit, but like it didn't seem like that floored
It's
doorway
like-
was super hidden. Like I know that when I was a shitty, degenerate, delinquent 17, 18-year-old
You go
kid, which
snooping
they
around.
pointed that boy out to be, he
Yeah.
wasn't like a straight A student who fucking obeyed and didn't like snoop around. Like I would have found that shit.
all
I
right,
mean,
so
it's
can
probably
I-
like 3 stories down. But yeah, go ahead, Bill.
I mean, my argument to this is there is literally no indication or no reason for us to think that the children are not in on it and have grown up on it and accepted it as normal. Because at the breakfast slaughter, when they come in, like, it almost seems like the son could be doing more, like, to get away and defend his parents, and he just is kind of caught in the doorway, and he sits down at the table and answers her questions clearly like his parents were not slaughtered. I think
She's got a double barrel shotgun pointed at you. You gonna do what the lady says?
Yeah,
or you
but
gonna...
no.
I see what
after blowing no.
I see what Bill's saying a little bit, but I'm not
going,
looking at
I
the
don't.
movie the first time I see that.
He's a teenager. He's
Yeah,
a kid.
this
There's no
is
way that he's
incredibly
expecting
traumatic.
this.
Like you have some fight, flight, or freeze, and
But I'm
you
like-
know what I mean. Like that was a primal reaction in a lot of ways. But I could
But what I'm
also
saying
see
is
with that information that you just
you
provided
don't
that like you
know.
don't know.
I don't
You're
think
right.
there's.
don't know.
I don't think there's any reason to believe that they do, though. I don't think there's anything that shows it. Like it could be either way, but like
If some-
everything points to that they don't know what's going on.
if someone broke in to my parents' house when I'm there and blew them away and I'm still alive, I would probably be like, first of all, I'd be like, please do me next. But I'd be like, what? I'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Like, what did they do? Like, they're not
I don't know,
really
man.
questioning at all. He
It's
kind of
so hard to
sits.
say though because we have
I know
no
it's hard to
idea.
say, but like,
With a gun in your face, do you really think you're answering questions that aren't being asked?
Yeah, and like from when she opens the door to when she shoots him, it's like 10 seconds.
no, it's way
15?
longer than that.
15 seconds?
He
The
gets
boy,
caught going
the boy
through the
probably
door.
like 3 minutes.
Really? That long?
Yes,
Okay.
and that's what makes me think. Like, I think they know.
I'm
Maybe
not
not
sold on
quite
that
3
at
minutes.
all. I don't. I'm not. No.
I think they know. I mean,
Also,
yeah, but it leaves.
okay.
I mean, it leaves it up to that. Like,
The
you
movie-
don't know for
let's-
sure.
let's
The
say
movie
that
could
they
have been
do
more
know.
enjoying without the distraction of having to ask that question while viewing it, though.
Let's say they know. Let's say the kids are in on it, and mom and dad have raised them that they're like, oh, we torture people for years until they die of basically exposure and dehydration.
Yeah.
Also, 15 years ago, right before you guys were born, one of them escaped. Don't worry about it. Like, why would they not have some sort of like go plan? Like, there's no weapons nearby. Like, they don't have anything. Like, if someone
How
breaks
do
in the
you-
house, if the police show
how
up,
do
like,
you know
here's
that-
what you do.
How do you know there's no weapons nearby? They were completely caught off guard. They all
Mom,
died. pretty much
mom
in
hears
the
a
kitchen.
gunshot. Mom hears the gunshot and doesn't really. She like runs, but she doesn't really like go into like fight mode, right?
She didn't have anything to fight with.
But if they knew about it, then they should have had a go plan.
What? You just keep
It should have been
guns
like
in the
Mr. and
kitchen?
Mrs. Smith,
Dog,
where you
dog,
like
if you're
move
keeping-
the fucking
Exact-
butcher block out of the way, and there's like an Uzi.
Or the fucking Halloween, Evil Dies
Yeah,
Tonight.
Evil
You
Dies
move
Tonight.
the whole fucking breakfast island.
Yeah, the
and you
island
go
comes
down
out.
to
You
the
go in the
bunker.
safe room and
Yeah.
you wait it out.
When you're gonna say like, oh, they just have weapons around the house. it's
Yes,
like,
exactly
because
that. They
in
have
this
a
house-
dungeon.
Exactly.
The dungeon that's like fucking
Built into the
3
fucking
stories
foundation
down.
of the house.
They
Like,
have
if-
a
Exactly.
shower.
Are they gonna
have
run?
like a shower set up for the outside dungeon so they can get all the blood off of it. Like, this is thought out. This
yeah,
is
but they can't
methodical.
run down there.
No,
and
that's
grab
why you
weapons.
build it in the fucking
If you have a
island.
fucking torture dungeon, you probably have a pistol in the kitchen, right?
At least,
Okay,
like,
but-
yo, my fucking house, my mother has a pistol in the kitchen fucking
His
drawer.
mother has a pistol in the kitchen drawer.
In the kitchen drawer.
Well,
the
that
one next to the
fucking
fridge.
has to do
And
with anything.
He only has.
No, I'm just saying,
just saying, like-
she's afraid that somebody's gonna break into her
They're,
fucking
like,
house in rural
sadistic,
fucking
crazy
middle
people.
nowhere
Okay,
with
but
400
this-
people in the town,
but
and she's
this-
like, oh, just in case.
But this also surrounds this obviously crazy organization that's been around for a long fucking time.
Plenty of time to plan.
15 years.
Exactly, but if you're part of like that organization, you feel protected because of the rest of the organization and the leaders. It's like
It took him
Not
like
quite.
2 days to show up.
it's like not quite like a cult or whatever, but like, you know what I mean? If you feel protected by this organization, you're not just gonna have fucking guns everywhere with your fucking children.
That
They're
is a
rich.
fucking insane stance.
Yeah,
That
I
is
agree
so
with Mike.
not-
I thought their kids
That's
fucking were in
insanity.
on it.
Yes, the kids were in
Well,
on
then what
it.
the fuck? Who cares that they're young, rich, affluent kids that are exposed to a fucking gun in the drawer when they're literally throwing out buckets of shit?
If
and
they're
piss
going
when they're prisoners
downstairs to feed pea soup to Miss whatever
Because
Tron lady
they're
with scars, like
Because they're so disconnected from reality that they believe that this organization, they believe that they're safe.
no,
Yes.
no.
Well, I mean, that's just
Let's
an
just move on.
opinion of the film.
I'm telling you, no.
I'm telling you, yes. That's my
okay.
belief.
Let me ask
If
you
she would
this.
have pulled out a gun or a fucking knife and got immediately blown away without being able to use it, then we wouldn't be having
We
this
wouldn't have
conversation.
this conversation.
The movie would be better for it.
Didn't have a chance. Where could the gun have been? The dad died as soon as he opened the door.
Literally
and
She's standing
anywhere.
in the
she's
fucking
running.
kitchen, dude.
She's running through the hallway when she gets killed.
Dog, if you come into my house tonight with a fucking gun and I'm
I would
answering
shoot
the door,
the
She
fuck
didn't even.
out of you.
She didn't even
I'm
grab
in the kitchen
a
with
kitchen
the wrist
knife.
twits and stir fry. Exactly.
No meat mallet. No like whatever.
Fucking poultry shears,
Poultry. Yeah. Come on.
binding
Oh,
twine.
we're talking about like shock of not what's going on. You just see
Shock
your
of, like-
husband get blown across the room. Is your first thought going to be like,
If I
hold
like,
on, where's my butcher knife?
But
She's
the kid-
running.
the
If
kid's
I
gonna
spent the
sit there and
last
start
20
asking
years
questions?
torturing people in my basement dungeon, maybe I would have a weapon nearby.
But they're crazy. Don't think. They
No,
don't think
this
like
is-
normal people. That's the whole point of the movie. Is that this organization
They're pretty
that thinks
methodical.
they're above everyone
But they're not
else.
like mystical or supernatural, really. Like the kind of, but not in like
Nor are they dumb.
we like wear robes and like light candles. Like everything's very clean and aseptic. All I'm saying is that you're wrong, and that
I
this
have
movie
to
was
agree.
was not great.
This is a great
how
movie.
how long do you think Anna is in the home? Like when she shows up before she buries the bodies to when black suit people show up, how long do you think she's there? 2 days?
Probably
a
2
day?
days.
2 days and 2.5 days?
Which I will say, this
Why are you
is
hanging out?
one of the few reasons I dislike this movie.
That house is full of dead people. You see your best friend kill herself, and you uncover that she was right the whole time, and there's a tortured woman creature. Like, why are you there? Why haven't you called the cops? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Because why would you call the cops? You're there with a bunch of dead people. Your best friend just killed them all. You're
Well,
looking pretty guilty.
I'm not saying hang around and wait for them to show up. I'm saying call the cops and get the fuck out of there.
I mean,
There's
she's also a victim of childhood trauma, and
Right.
people like that don't always,
But she
can't
even
think
says-
of that shit at the time.
she even says she can't like take care of the woman she finds because she doesn't have the like medical capabilities to do it.
Right.
All I'm saying is like, you thought your friend was crazy. It turns out she kills everybody in this house. You think that she's like lost it, and then you find out that there's like a murder dungeon
If
underneath.
this was just a sloppy, like less polished, murder fest gore film
if this
that
was
didn't try to fucking hang on
It-
to some
it-
sort of pretension and art house
it
bullshit,
does pretend to be intellectual, right?
if it didn't try to pretend to be intellectual, I would accept all of this and move on. But if you're going to be so fucking smart and cerebral, you can't have this many holes.
Which
I don't
that's what I
think
was saying.
anyone here's trying to be so smart and cerebral.
Oh, come on.
I don't
I
know.
didn't get that at all.
Look, you were looking just to be pleased. You just wanted to see the gore, and the gore is delivered in spades. I'm not
No, this
arguing
is-
that.
You know what this movie is without all the pretentious and intellectualism?
Hmm.
Human Centipede. That's that movie.
Yes, but you know why
No.
Human
Literally that
Centipede is
movie.
better? Because it's outlandish and over the top and silly, and it's like, oh, I'm some crazy Nazi doctor who wants to
and you, like, I
replicate
sew
his
my
three
dogs
dog-
together. Yeah.
Exactly. And if this was just a sew my dogs together fucking gore film, I
Yeah.
would have been like,
Or-
I love it.
Or if it was the first film and it was like, oh, actually, there was a demon curse and you're fucked.
Or there wasn't a demon curse, and
She
it
was
is an
crazy.
allegory for mental health, and it was not my favorite ending, but like, fuck, it delivered at
Yeah.
least, then I would also
There
be
are
okay
like
with it.
3 ways this movie could have gone differently and we would have liked it more.
I like how this movie went. I like the idea of martyrdom. I like the idea.
We haven't even got to the
of-
martyrdom.
Yeah,
Let's go.
We'll get there. So it turns out that apparently young women can like be brought to the brink of death
Like this whole
and
thing.
survive. And it's weird. It's culty. It's like this organization that is obsessed with what happens after death, to where, and this is where like a lot of this comes from Hostel too, which is like they're willing to do whatever it takes to find out what happens after death. And that's why I know this second half of this film is very hated by a lot of people, because it very much is just brutal violence against women, which
That was my
is.
least of my problems with the second half of this film. Not to sound incredibly crass or misogynistic. It's like, I know what I'm signing myself up for, and I've fucked around with extreme cinema quite a bit. I wasn't turned off by that. It was just...
And let's get into that
gratuitous.
because there are extreme horror tropes, just like there are horror tropes, and a lot of it is like violence against women, and most of the time it's sexual or misogynistic. And this film like doesn't do that. Like there's no sexual violence. You can even tell like at the end when she's being beaten, it's like we feel the fact that like she's being beaten only because this organization is so instilled in the idea that if they beat these women, they break them down, they keep them in dark, and they do all this shit, and then hopefully they get to breach that gap between life and death. Like, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of the second half of this movie is a big man beating this woman, and it is graphic and it is hard to watch. But
it's so pretty.
But unlike a lot of extreme horror, it's not like there's no sexual violence. Like the man doesn't even seem like he's getting pleasure out of it. It seems like he's almost doing a job. He goes down there and he hits her a couple times,
sort
and
of
then he
fucking thing that I'm supposed to like the film more about. And it's like okay,
I'm just
and I
saying
get
that a lot of the times in extreme horror, violence against women is extremely sexist and misogynistic, where it becomes to the point that it's not graphic or disturbing. It's just annoying and offensive. And in this, it kind of felt like it was the organization doing like what they had to do to figure this out. And like the old lady, Mademoiselle, whatever.
Mademoiselle.
Man, I thought like she was fucking great. And we see these images, and she shows them when she catches Anna down there of these people that are on the brink of life and death, and she's like, look at their eyes. And I mean, these images are disgusting and they're beautiful. Like you said, like as fucked up as this movie is, like it's beautiful in a way as well.
Yeah,
and like
I think I have a problem with that though, honestly. It was too pretty. You're talking about this man, he's brutish and like boorish and just like a fucking, he's abusing this woman, this young girl.
Yeah.
And man, if you're listening to this, like, you know why you're here, okay? But this is part of me that is just apprehensive to go all out and say what I want, just because it sounds so crass.
Go mask off.
No, it just sounds so crass with, if you're not listening with the context. But if I'm getting that, I want it to fucking look like a snuff film. I want to be concerned that I'm watching something that's real.
Then fucking watch all these fucking movies that I tell you to watch with me.
I do. Why are you talking to me like I'm Rob? I watch so many movies.
Don't throw Rob into this.
Yeah, don't throw me into this.
I'm just saying, like, it's not that I don't watch these movies. Like, I absolutely do. And that's what I'm saying. It's like, don't give me your pretentious, like, oh, you just didn't get it. Like, this is like Titan, whatever.
No, it's not.
And its cinematography and its presentation, and it's like,
get the fuck out of here with fucking comparing this to Titan. Get the fuck out of here with that. It's not like that at all.
Why? Just because it was like
no
humans?
Weird fucking...
Yeah, exactly. That's all you got to go on.
Of fucking being transsexual. Are you compare what?
The whole thing was
this is
a high art piece that didn't actually have a lot of art. Like,
it's not. So you're considering this. I think that's the main divide right here. Is like, I don't see this as a high art film. You're trying to say that this is like Titan. Like
this film definitely was smelling its own farts. It was trying to be definitely more artistic than many of the other contemporary comparisons in the genre.
And what?
Oh, fuck. Like, what other films do this that are just brutal and gross and not redeeming
like
at all?
French Extreme.
Okay. Well, I haven't seen
Salo.
Solo is definitely not like this.
Why?
It's ugly. It's not pretty. It's not well lit. It doesn't have these scores behind it.
Yes, it does. Salo's got a great score.
Do you guys think this movie had a great score?
Yes. For what it was,
I think it had a pretty
I think it was
I think it had
a decent good
It was
score.
appropriate.
I think it was unique. I don't
It was
know if I liked it.
appropriate.
I'll say that once you get like, okay, you get the spiel from Grandmother Witch that's like, hey, this is what we do. Here's a big info dump. Oh, look at all these pictures. Look at their eyes, which was like, I like the idea of this.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the organization. The way that they present it and like how they actually work, I don't care for. And I like that this reminded me of like Red Dragon, where, you know, Ray Fiennes is like transformed, they're transfigured, like they become something else.
Yeah.
And I was still holding out for like a supernatural aspect to this, but they're not. They're kind of like, I don't know. They're like existentialists, and they kind of mention God off and on, but that's not really the focus.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you know, I'm not a big supernatural guy, so
yeah, I know, but like I kept like holding out. Like
Yeah.
I got faked out with a demon that wasn't a demon, that was actually a hallucination, and then
But that was good though, right? Because you thought it was a demon.
I mean the fake out was good, but like the end result I didn't like as much.
Fair enough.
And then you see this lady who's like got a fucking turban. She's wearing like whatever orange brown glass. Like she looks like a fucking witch.
She looks like an oracle or some
Right?
shit. Yeah, she is crazy looking, but
And they go into all this about like how they torture these women or how young women are more susceptible to this, like how many times they've tried it, and like all these photos from 1913 and 1945 and like all this history and stuff. But the end result is what? They want to basically kill somebody, or almost, so that they then
they want to.
maybe hear about what's going on on the other end. But like they tell when all the old people show up, they're like, this is the first time that they've related it. So they've been doing this for decades, and they've had 4 other people get to this state, but no one's even said anything. So they're just like fucking throwing money at this. All these people are in on it and like spend a majority of their lives devoted to this, so that maybe they'll get something whispered that they could then decipher and then use that to do what?
I mean, that's like normal cult, weird like organization shit.
There should be
is
a bigger
like
payoff.
believe on
not
like
even like
something.
you don't
that's
need
not
money.
Real.
There should be like some like a tangible thing, like not like money or gold or whatever, but like there should be like power. Like okay, like let's say
The power is knowing what is in between life and death.
But what do you do with that? Like, you know
It
what I mean?
depends on what it is, which apparently it was so.
Yeah, and I saw that coming.
It was either so great or so awful or so whatever that the one person that heard her speak in between,
Kills herself.
she kills herself.
And that's a classic trope where it's like things you should not know, things that like you can't know. Like reading the
Yes.
Necronomicon makes you go crazy.
Yeah.
And like I'm all about that, but when it is like an actual cult, like Hereditary, like they
this.
You know what I mean? Like, and I know
Yeah.
this isn't supernatural and it's apples and oranges, but it just seemed like the cult thing got kind of thrown in at the end. There's a bunch of info dump, but they don't really tell you much about them, and then everything just kind of ends.
I don't think
watches like a movie
I'd
that
say
had a
it's
cool
cult, but it's not really culty.
skeleton of a concept and a lot of really good ideas for like some on-screen gore. And that was the basis of the movie, and we tried to flesh everything out from there, and it just didn't do a great job.
No, man,
also, you
I
put me on the fucking spot, and I pulled up a quick list. Let's do this real quick. Fucking Cannibal Holocaust,
Horrible.
Dogtooth,
Great.
Funny Games.
Great.
These are all the original Hills Have Eyes.
High
Even like
Tension.
Hostel, Human Centipede
Great.
2, I Spit
Great.
on Your Grave. These are all movies in the extreme cinema fucking
We're talking
genre
about
that
new
don't
French extreme.
Talk
have
about French movies.
exactly, because this all has to have its bullshit high art cinema, and Funny Games is in that fucking extreme French cinema also.
And
Actually, I
guess
think
what?
it's
The U.S.
Austrian.
remake is actually better. One of the few times.
There's a U.S. remake of this, of Martyrs?
A
There
Funny
is
Games.
a U.S.
Oh,
remake
okay.
of Martyrs, actually. And at the end, I guess,
It
has
is,
anybody
but
seen
it's
it?
no, but
Well,
I mean
guess
it's
the
very
woman
vanilla.
doesn't kill herself at the end either because they didn't want to give the
Hmm.
American moviegoer a downer experience.
God, that's so fucking dumb.
Yeah, it is.
But I mean
fucking
this.
dumb.
I mean
Same thing with The Descent.
Pascal was like suicidal when he wrote this, and like I'm not trying to get like dumb or deep, but like someone that has like dealt with depression, like sometimes like during this movie, some of the things that the characters go through, it's like, man, that's like an extreme, exaggerated, and probably offensive way of explaining what I feel like I go through, which is like you wake up, you don't want to eat, like you're force fed. The rest of your day is so shitty. It just feels like you're getting the shit beat out of you the whole time. And then eventually you hope that you find out what's on the other side. And I'm not trying to get weird about that at all. And that's probably reaching. But the fact that he was like depressed and suicidal when he wrote this, like I feel that like when Lucy is like, I know like she's killing people to appease this part of her. It feels like, man, like that's kind of how I feel sometimes. Like I'm doing things that I don't want to do, that I'm feel like I'm forced to do because there's an outside part of me that is saying, like, you need to do this. This is what is right. And then like, I don't know. I'm not trying to be weird about that or make this movie make sense in that way, but this movie speaks to me in that way that maybe it doesn't to you. And I'm not saying it's because it's high art or not, because I don't really think this is like high art. I think maybe he was trying and it comes across a little like snobbish, but like sometimes like I watch this and I'm like, damn, like I feel like I know what they're going through, which is like a shit. Like I feel like I could, not that I could, I feel
Murder
like
a family at breakfast?
I mean, yes, but I feel like I would love to run into a room and kill everything that's making me feel bad and feel depressed, and that's not the right way to do it, which we see as how then Anna becomes a victim of it, and then she kind of has to go through the same shit where she is not her own person and everyone is obsessed between like life and death, and like maybe that's why like the old witch lady, like I feel like maybe she, even though she's so like confident throughout this whole thing, I almost feel like she's depressed too and like suicidal, and that's why she's so obsessed with what's in between. And maybe what Anna whispers to her in that little bed is that she's like, oh, like it's beautiful, like nothing hurts, and that gives her the courage to take her own life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense what you're saying.
I'm not trying to
Yeah, no. I mean,
make it like if you guys say you don't like this movie, it's because of some dumb reason. I know this movie is very divisive, and the second half is torture porn, pretty much.
yeah.
Which, like, I totally get, but
that's not a big turnoff for me, though. And like, I guess to piggyback on your whole point is like, if that is what the film is about, the
which
film
it
sounds
totally
like
might not
shit,
be,
and I don't want to watch that film. Like, I don't want.
This
like,
is
that's
not
interesting to me. Like, fuck me, I guess, but it's like I'm much more of like the sadist in this. Like, I want to see or to have it implied from the other perspective. I don't want to sit here and fucking cry. I want to fuck shit up. I want Leatherface. I want Pinhead. I want Michael Myers. I want unrelenting
I want-
violence.
I want that too, but I mean, you guys know me. I like feeling uncomfortable and disturbed. And
the
I've seen
most
this
uncomfortable
movie.
I felt about this movie was the fact that it was still fucking playing. Like, honestly, it was never like, to me, like shocking or like unbelievable. Like I said, like all the movies I just listed, like all of those movies have elicited a feeling in me where I'm like, ooh, like, dude, I don't like, I like feeling like I'm watching something I shouldn't. And like this whole time I was just like, and maybe it's just like palate fatigue in this area of the genre, to where like I have seen a lot of extreme cinema, and to the point where it's, without it being extreme, it isn't funny, it isn't slapstick, it isn't over the top, it isn't if like fiercely original. So there isn't much left of this for me. If I watched this when I was 16 years old, I would absolutely love this movie, because I wouldn't have been caring about all of the bullshit. I would have just been stoked to see some girl flayed with only her face on at the end of the scene of the movie. Like, I would have been like, oh my god. And dude, it was still really cool. But is it like, where, for what? It goes back to like, why? The story sucked. And like, honestly,
but why? Because they try to get him close enough to death that they, I can't say it makes sense, but like,
yeah, it makes sense, and there's no reason, like there's no motive for it. And like,
because it's a fucked up like
right,
organization. It's like cult. They don't have like,
you don't
reasons.
You're not this smart and this organized and this polished and have this type of longevity without a motive, though. Now, if you're just some redneck backwoods fucking cannibalistic rapist, the Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I get it. You live in an insulary tribe. It's all isolated, and you just are surviving by the crudest means. This organization has money and influence and like so much at their disposal. They're not that dumb. So don't, like, why? What's the point? What do you need this knowledge for?
Because
and without that reason,
they're obsessed. Talk to any crazy like religious people. Like, one of the things that they're most concerned about is what happens after death.
I disagree.
Yeah, but they're not religious. I mean, the group
religious people. How do you know?
They talk about they mention God like once or twice when they're talking about the other people that were transformed. Like, she was an atheist. But like, other than that, like, they don't mention like this is for a higher power. They don't mention God. All they say is
they want to
the
know
other
what
world
happens
and beyond.
Death.
It's like very vague and secular in sounding.
I don't want to get too off the rails, but like,
religious.
If they were religious,
like, it would have made more sense.
Yeah, it would because the devotation would make more sense. Like, I can believe a religious fanatic. I can believe a non-religious fanatic if you give me more to go off. But again, like, this movie is like a dark version of Being John Malkovich, where at the end of it, all these old people show up in fancy cars. They're like, "Hey, guess what, guys? We're gonna find out what happens when you die." Like, I don't know.
I honestly prefer the fact that it isn't as laid out, because it makes it more disturbing. It's like, who are these people? Why do they care so much? Yeah. And like, that's kind of like how Hostel is too. I mean, Hostel, they just
no, but
never.
No, that's
seen
crazy.
It.
But in Hostel, it goes against exactly what you were talking about. There is so much primal pleasure.
Okay, if you're like a sadistic fuck and that's how you get your jollies, like, cool. That's all you got to tell me.
Exactly, but we were going into this as just a job.
Jollies with trying to get them to find out what's after death. It's the same shit.
It's not, though.
It is, though.
It's more like it's like an academic pursuit versus like, oh, we're hedonists. We love to torture people because we like the way they scream and like it gets us off. However that is, like, that's a primal, like, I get that. But when you're like, again, like, these people have money, they have connections, they've been doing this for decades, they've improved their methodology. Where before, when
they're building houses,
when Lucy
with
escapes, they're like
dungeons.
in a warehouse, and now they've got like a polished human centipede dungeon basement.
Where's the ROI here? Like, who's getting this information and paying you for it?
Not only that, how are you convincing these people to like do this long term when you've had nothing? Like, you've transfigured people, but they all died silently. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man. You look at any of the.
I'm
big-
getting shown just enough of this organization that I have questions, and they don't answer any of them. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I just like that fact of it, because I think of it as like a group of people that, you know, maybe want to end their lives, but they're scared because they don't know what comes after, so they devote their millions of dollars
Dude,
to
that is so
finding
fucking
out.
lame.
Millions
to
of
me.
francs, because it's like 1986.
I'm just stating my opinion.
Oh, I'm not attacking your opinion. I'm just
I
saying,
am.
like, that is just fucking lame, and I don't want to watch that movie. And
Again,
I watched it, and I didn't love it. If that is where it is, it's just like, oh, I just, like, kind of want to kill myself, but, like, I'm going to devote my whole life into finding the courage to do it, and it's going to take ridiculous means and monetary investment, and, like...
which one did you like more? The ending of this movie or the ending of Starry Eyes?
Oh, my God. The ending of Starry Eyes. Are you
Right?
kidding me?
You go like understand why they're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, it's weird and it doesn't make real sense, but like,
and I
it's
can't relate to
internally
it
consistent.
in any way
It's internally
because I
consistent.
don't have that type of drive, you
Right.
know, but I look at it and I'm like, okay,
Well,
I accept that.
They're nihilists. At least Satanists have an ethos.
They're nihilist, Donnie.
Donnie, these men are nihilists. I prefer the ending of this movie because I feel like I relate more to it than the end of Starry Eyes, which is also great.
I mean, it's hard to relate to the end of Starry Eyes, but yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, all the,
You know what I mean.
big meathead dude beating up on Anna, I don't think it's, like, gratuitous to the point where it's like, oh, this is, like, misogyny and there are no redeeming qualities at all. But there's so many quick cuts, and once you get the spiel from Mademoiselle Witch Lady, you know what's going to happen, right? They're going to torture the shit out of her for 10 to 15 minutes until we get to the climax. So I'm not really even interested in watching it. Like, I just want to, like, get to the point where she's broken down.
I
You know,
really
like,
agree with that.
I'm, like, watching this to get to the end.
That
and
was the time I was checking my phone to make sure I didn't have any text messages that I knew I didn't have.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, you're just going to fucking beat this girl?
Because really the scariest part is when she first climbs down and sees the chair, and then you're like, oh, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
you realize, like, what's going to happen next. And I did like the flayed bit. Like, I don't see that in a lot of movies. I don't
No, it
watch
was
as much
good.
fucked up shit as you two degenerates do.
I mean, it
but
kind of reminded me of the kill of the Londoner in Midsummer when he's like
Yeah.
filleted up with
Oh,
his,
yeah, he's all, like, blood
with
eagled.
his lungs out. But,
Yeah.
But also, if you want to take it even further than that, and this is what I was kind of getting at, is like, if you're going to do it and go that way, it's just like, go all in, and it doesn't even have to be realistic or make fucking
Okay.
sense. But, like, Hellraiser? Come on. Hellraiser 2? Has, like...
Dude, you know what's probably the grossest part of the film? Is when the lady from the basement is, like, trying to scratch her own skin off with a butcher knife.
Yeah.
Like, that got me, man.
yeah, she's
like, and-
sawing
and-
her wrist, but
and-
there's like not even enough blood for her to die from it.
And
Kind
her,
of.
like, having to, like, get in the bath, like even that was, like, got to me.
What
like,
about the screws popping
Yeah,
up?
I mean, that was graphic, but it didn't quite get me in the pit of my stomach. Like, you have open wounds and, like, you know, like, or, like, touching, like, her sewing up the razor cuts on
Yeah.
Lucy's back. Like, that got me. I don't know.
You want to get into final thoughts and reviews here?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll start since I'm the only one that liked it. Like I said, I think this movie is broken down into two movies. The first half is like an extreme torture revenge, and then the second half is extreme torture, you know, which is definitely not for everybody. But I mean, I do think that this is like an excruciating, over exaggerating, like I said, offensive way of showing what it's like to live with depression, and maybe that's just me trying to, you know, grasping at straws, trying to make this movie make sense. But when I first saw it, I thought of that, and when I watched it again yesterday, I thought the same thing. And when I learned that Pascal was suicidal at the time when he wrote it, I was like, damn, that like kind of makes sense. I kind of felt that, but getting into, better things like whether you like the movie or not, there's a lot of great gore in this movie. The gore and the effects are great. I mean, the breakfast slaughter is one of my favorite scenes of all time, of any movie. I thought the score was great. Like I said before, like the misogyny that usually comes with violence against women is not really in this movie, which I enjoyed, because watching a lot of extreme horror, I get that a lot, and it gets annoying and it gets stupid. And the fact that there's none of that in here, I like. And yeah, honestly, the two words that I would say describe this movie are beautifully disgusting. Is what I said, and I still stand by that. And I give this movie an 82. I know you guys are going to be a little bit lower than that, at least, but as far as extreme horror goes, I really like this movie. This is probably the third or fourth time I've seen it, and it's not going to be my last. You guys go ahead.
I like this movie more than I thought I was going to. Also, this movie was way different than I expected it to be. And like you're saying with the two movies, kind of, or three acts, however you want to split it up, the first part is infinitely better, so much better. I thought the acting was pretty good overall. I have issues with foreign films sometimes with, like, I don't know, grading the acting ability of some people, but I think all overall, like, pretty well acted. The cinematography, the shaky cam was distracting at certain points. Like, it got, like, too much. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but
Yeah.
Overall, like, decently well shot, well lit. Like, even though she's supposed to be in, like, a totally dark dungeon basement towards the end of the film, whatever.
They have lights down there.
They have lights down there because she's the main character. Score was kind of forgettable. Like, there was unique. There was, like, a lot of guitar in it, which I wasn't expecting. And when did this movie come out? 2008?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Effects were great. Great gore. Some really cool kills. Definitely the slaughter scene. A lot of, like, straight edge weapon attacks. Like, a lot of straight razor stuff with the demon girl. And the demon girl, both of them, like, not, like, crazy special effects, but, like, well done. Like, they look gross. They look pretty realistic with the scarification and, like, the injuries around the shackles, like where her skin's sloughing off, and, like, that was all, like, proper gross. But yeah, overall, like, the last third of the movie, the ending with the cult, like, really, really did it in for me. It's not that I hated the movie, I liked it so much up to that point, and then it just kind of fell off a cliff, and I was, like, kind of left, like,
You're allowed to hate it. It's okay.
I didn't hate it, though. Like, I actually expected to not like it, not because I thought it was going to be a bad movie, just because I thought it was going to be really extreme, and it was, but kind of like the other movie that I watched with you guys, was like, oh, I thought it would be, like, kind of more, I don't know. Not, like, in a disappointed way, but I was expecting to be like, oh my, like, have to, like, turn it off or, like, take a break or something, and I didn't have to. Overall, though, I would watch another film by this director,
Well, it's not too many options, but
there's, like, one.
well, The Tall Man.
Yeah, you mentioned that at the beginning. Yeah.
Actually,
check
it's a
that
pretty
out.
big release. I think it was 2012, and it did pretty well in, like, box office and
Okay.
critic reviews. But yeah, besides the point.
But yeah, I think as a number score, probably like a 62 or a 63.
It's better than I thought
Yeah.
you'd give. So
I don't know. Like, yeah, if you like watching extreme stuff, like, you should check this out because it's interesting, and maybe you'll like the finale twist at the end more than myself. But yeah, I don't know. It was a good pick. I'm glad you picked it for the pod.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect exactly. I don't think that my high anticipation and hopes for this film helped, because I do know that I have a tendency, especially on a first viewing, to get inside my own head, and I can kind of run away with the idea once it's planted. And I could just be like, I'm not enjoying this, and then just nitpick myself into not enjoying it more and more. Because of that, I would definitely watch it again. Not anytime soon. There's some great gore. I really do like it. I do feel like the script just sucked. Mostly. I think the filmmaking was pretty good. There were some elements I think could have been tighter. Like you said, the shaky cam was a little obnoxious. Any type of movie like this with like a home invasion or whatever, it does kind of make me feel like I like it when the cinematography makes me feel like I'm trapped inside of the house, or like The Shining is such a great example of like I feel like I'm in the Overlook the entire time I watch that movie. I never felt like that in this movie. I don't know if it's because it starts in one location and ends up in another location, and that location has another location downstairs. It's like we were always bouncing from place to place in the movie, but we never really go anywhere.
That's a good point, actually. I never thought of it like that, but I totally agree what you mean.
You know what I'm saying? Like I never felt trapped in this.
Yeah.
I think it could have been better if I did. You just kind of have a sense of claustrophobia or something. That being said, it was well acted. The score was pretty decent. I would watch it again. I'd watch other things by him. But like my biggest complaint with this movie is I just didn't fucking enjoy it. I was just so ready for it to end pretty much since the scarred woman reveals herself to be like an apparition or like a manifestation of guilt. 45.
Oof. Brutal. Out of 100?
Yeah, because it fucking sucked.
Oh, okay. Not 1,000. Good.
Not 1,000? That'd be even worse.
It fucking sucked is really strong. Like I said, I get in my own head and I just marry myself to these ideas that I really dislike this movie. There was a lot of it that was really good, especially the gore. Like everybody has said before me, if you're into extreme horror or it interests you at all, this is definitely one that's like a benchmark and you should check it out.
I definitely hyped this up too, so it's probably on me a little bit.
I think both of us have probably been putting off watching this film for years.
I definitely hyped it up more so to Michael because he's like more
he's gross
into
like
this
you.
kind of shit. But
Yeah.
Gross boys.
But I'm glad you didn't hate it.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I don't know. Again, like if it had been all supernatural or they had not done anything with the weird organization, perfect.
Pick a
Yeah.
lane and stay in it.
Well,
Those,
yeah.
You know, like
or drive in 2 lanes and do it well.
that's so hard to do. I don't have a lot of good examples of that, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
What are we doing next time?
Yeah.
We're gonna do the spookies.
Christmas Eve. We're gonna take a break, I think, for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
A few, at least 2.
yeah, a
Christmas
few
Eve
is
and New
3.
Year's
So
Eve, right?
yeah.
Then we're gonna do the spookies when we come back. So I'm up next to pick movie, and I won't be revealing that until after the spooky. So you guys have to wait another 3 weeks at least to get my pick.
No.
Oh, I can't wait.
Let me tell you, you're gonna dislike my movie way more than I dislike this movie.
Ooh, that does
You
not
s-
bode well. You
you
said a
s-
45,
you
and this
say
movie
that,
fucking
but-
sucks.
I feel like it's not gonna be true, but we'll see. But yeah, we're gonna do the spookies, which is our version of some
Oh,
kind
the
of
Elmies?
awards. Should we call it the Elmies? I kind of like the Elmies. But I don't know. We're gonna pick a bunch of categories and yell over each other about
Right.
them for an hour and a half.
Yep, we're gonna do our highs and lows of
Best
the
ending,
last year.
worst ending, best kill,
Yeah. I mean, pretty
Best
much.
bill.
Best
That's
bill.
a unanimous one though. Sweet Bill is the best bill.
best police officer, or
I don't know. Billy and Tammy and the T-Rex.
or emergency services.
Best police officer. I'll just say it right now. It's got to be
Buck
Buck
Flower.
Flower.
Yeah.
Oh,
Best,
Birdbath or Buck Flower?
Man, probably Buck Flower. Buck Flower
Well,
is
what's
just
his face
so
in
ridiculous.
Sleepwalkers?
That's
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Oh man, I forgot. Yeah, we're
Lots
both
of
like,
good cops.
we're like, is that Mark Hamill? Like, no way. Like,
No
Are
way.
we sure that's not Mark Hamill?
So if you haven't gathered, Elmers, this is definitely not confined to films that came out 2021. It's just all the
anything
movies
we
we've
watch.
watched.
Anything we watch this year, yeah.
And not even necessarily for
the
the pod.
pod.
So good luck keeping up with our bullshit. If you have a nominee, chances are you're wrong.
If you like our
It's gonna be a
opinions on
mess.
other things, you like our opinions on these things.
Oh yeah.
Well,
So yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah,
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays,
Sol Invictus.
Sol Invictus,
Hail Satan.
Saturnalia.
Satan's not real.
Neither is God. Kill God.
Neither is God. Nothing is real except for this podcast.
That's why you should capture a woman and torture her for weeks and weeks and weeks. Find out what really happens at the end. Beep.
All right. We'll talk to you guys in a couple weeks. Right, Elmers? Not you guys specifically.
Yeah, Elmers.
I'll talk to you in a few weeks.
I will. I probably even in a few days, but also in a few weeks.
Yeah.
We'll probably just keep hanging out for the rest of the night. But, we got to wrap this up. Actually, let's take another 5 minutes to talk.
No.
To talk about this
you
movie.
guys go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pull up with us, watch 2 films. Come on, watch 2 films. If you scared, don't come over here. 13